Well, you didn't say the line. Oh, for fuck's sake. The North remembers, Lord Davos. Now bring me a Lord of Winterfell.
Everyone, and welcome to Vassals of Kingsgrave's Great Linear A Song of Ice and Fire reread. This is episode 80, which could potentially spoil any events in George R. Martin's published series, including TOR preview chapters, although I will put a spoiler warning if and when we talk about those. It will not, however, contain any show spoilers. Let me remind everyone that the views expressed in this podcast are those of the individual hosts and not of the OK as a whole. That said, let's introduce everyone. I'm Mary, also Nymeria on the forums, and I'm joined today by Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah, Lady Weaver on the forums.
Michael.
Hey, Khal Wadege on the forums.
We also have Matt.
Hey, Blue Armor on the forums.
And Noah.
Hey guys, Pops88 on the forums.
And Alix.
Hi, Aiwendil on the forums.
Awesome. So that's a great team. We have like 1, 2, 3, 4 with me, who were at Worldmoot, so we might,
Yay!
Worldmoot! Yeah.
I'm so jealous.
But we won't talk about it too much. I don't want to, make Sarah and Matt feel left out. Alright, so at the end of the last episode, Tyrion was kidnapped by Jorah on April the 15th, 300 AL. In this episode, we will cover Jaime 4 from Feast, Dany 5, and Davos 4 from Dance. These events take place between April 15th and the 17th of 300 AL. So, after Tyrion 6, we jump to Jaime 4 in Feast, which takes place on the same day, and I believe we have Sarah for this recap.
Yes, we do. Okay. So, Jaime's 1,000-strong host reaches Castle Derry and finds it being rebuilt with Smallfolk working the fields outside. By the time his host reaches the castle walls, the Smallfolk have retreated inside. On their way to Castle Derry, Jaime has dispatched Red Runnet to accompany Wyman Manderly to Maidenpool. But he has 1,000-man host, which is too many for Castle Derry to feed. He takes note of all the armed Freys and sparrows inside the castle, which far outnumber Lannister men. Darry's master greets Sir Jaime, surprised by this unexpected visit, and tells him that Sir Kevin has departed after the wedding, and that Lancel is praying in the sept. The maester provides Jaime with Lancel's own room, which is the Lord's bedroom and is connected to Lady Amory's chambers as well. And Lancel's bedchamber has been completely changed from Jaime's last stay at Darry, and instead of being a lavish room with Moorish carpet and a large bed enough to sleep 6, they have old stale rushes, all of the furnishings are new and crudely made, and there's only a lumpy straw pallet instead of the large bed. Jaime also learns that Lancel sleeps in the sept instead of his room. At the feast, prepared by Lady Amory Frey, Jaime learns that his cousin has been fasting since the old High Septon died. Lady Amory begs Jaime to stay and help them defeat Lord Beric Dondarrion, the Hound, and other outlaws. He learns that the outlaws seem to be following a woman now, cloaked and hooded, and that no one has seen Beric Dondarrion for a while. Jaime's companion Strongball claims to be moved by Lady Amory's words, and promises to return after they take Riverrun to sort out the Hound. Jaime leaves the table and goes to the sept to meet with his cousin, where he is stopped by 3 armed sparrows. But Lancel stops them and lets Jaime into the sept. Inside, Lancel admits that his father left after they quarrelled, and that he does not intend to consummate his marriage. He then admits and confesses to his greatest sins, serving the wine that caused King Robert's death, and that he did in fact sleep with Cersei. Lancel also states that he plans to give up his title as Lord of Darry and to head to King's Landing and become a member of the Warriors' Sons. When Jaime learns that Cersei has rearmed the faith, he is almost as upset by this as he is to discover that Tyrion was not lying about Cersei's infidelity. Later, in the yard with Cyril and Payne, Jaime admits that he slept with Cersei when she was at Castle Darry with Robert, and that Cersei wanted him to get Arya Stark, and that he would have killed her if he found her that night.
All right. Thanks, Sarah. Do you have any points you want to make since you had the recap?
Yes, I do. Actually, the last point in this chapter is when Jaime's talking to Sir Ilan Payne, and the actual quote for it was, "As I was fucking her, Cersei cried, 'I want.' I thought she meant me, but it was the Stark girl she wanted, maimed or dead." And then he thinks, "The things I do for love. It was only by chance the Stark's own men found the girl before me. If I had come on her first, ... And with that, the line, "The things I do for love," is the exact same thing he says out loud before pushing Bran out the window. And because of that, we can actually attribute his actions whenever he says that to things that he does for Cersei. And normally, those things that he wouldn't normally actually do, he always does after, sexual acts with Cersei. And I think this is a very normal occurrence in their relationship and happens all the time, and Cersei knows that, because when Cersei is trying to get Jaime to be her hand, she actually tries to have sex with him in front of the White Book, which was in Jaime 1, but he refused and rebuffed her during that. So I think this is actually a very normal occurrence between them, and it's something about their dynamic.
Yeah, it's interesting. The only times we ever see Cersei initiate sex with Jaime is when she specifically wants something. All the other times it's Jaime going in first. But yeah.
Yes, and with theory and stuff, there's the ways people normally act in a situation, there's the way the person normally acts in a situation, and then there's the situation itself, like the stimulus, and whether that changes what happens in it. And I think we can say that the way Cersei acts in the situation changes the way Jaime acts in it. Like, if Cersei initiates sexual favors, then he reciprocates by doing whatever she wants.
Yeah, I agree. What was I going to say? I think that quote that you mentioned, the part where she says, "I want," and Jaime misinterprets it at first, it speaks to both Jaime's initial, the fact that he's deluded about Cersei and that thinking Cersei actually loves him and she more has her own agenda on the table. And then when he also goes, it was only chance that the Starks found her, not me. And that speaks to how much Jaime's basically committing to wearing this mask of being like Jaime Lannister, the anti-hero who just kills children because he can, because the whole world thinks he's evil.
But is it because of the whole world thinks that he's evil, or is it because Cersei wants me to do something, so I'll do it for her?
Both are applicable, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I think it's interesting to note that, in this part of the storyline is where Jaime is growing more and more distant with Cersei because of the revelations that she cheated on him, in quotations, because they weren't really married or in a relationship. Anyway, and just before that passage, he's in the Sept, and there's a quote where he thinks, "I thought that I was the warrior and Cersei was the maid, but all that time she was the stranger, hiding her true face from my gaze." And that little thought puts into question the whole thing about Arya and the things he does for love, and the way he thinks it now is pretty different from the way he said it when he pushed Bran out the window, for example. I think he's coming to that realization of how much she actually manipulated him and how disconnected he was from all those actions.
He's becoming disillusioned, and I think this chapter, like, I think Tyrion started it, and his time with Brienne, Tyrion started it with that phrase where Cersei's been fucking Lancel, Osmond, and Moonboy for all I know, and then Lancel confirming that yes, she was, at least part of that's true, and then it's bringing into question everything he knows or had thought about Cersei and their relationship.
Yeah.
I feel like the door's 100% open at this point. At any point after this, if Jaime got that letter from Cersei saying, come back to me, I need you, Jaime would have just thrown it in the fire. He's reached 100% disillusionment.
Agreed.
Full disillusionment achieved.
Yeah. Do you think he was ever really in love with Cersei? Or it was like a lust and an obsession. And
absolutely. I think Jaime had it hard for Cersei, and Cersei maybe had deluded herself into thinking she loved Jaime, but not truly.
But he doesn't ever compliment Cersei on being kind or, she's not, but do you know what I mean?
It's always physical beauty.
Exactly, yeah, that's exactly where I was going.
Yeah, well, I agree with you, Noah, but I also think that, the premise of the question is a bit flawed in the sense that there's as many ways of loving as there are people, as there are relationships, actually. So I do think that Jaime loved Cersei, maybe not in a sense that we would agree with is love, but to him, it was definitely that. And as for her, I agree, it's more complicated, but, I agree with Michael that she made herself believe she did love him.
I've heard people say that they believe, she's a narcissist, so she loves him because he reflects her and is the closest thing to herself that there is.
Yeah, absolutely. In the first book, Cersei says we're one spirit in two
halves
bodies.
Of a whole.
Yeah, something really weird and twincesty.
Corny.
Yeah, well, okay, but I might have a kind of a bit of view on what love is, but I also kind of believe that narcissism is often a part of it. You also love a person because of the way they reflect you and then the way they make you feel about yourself. So obviously Cersei takes it to a whole other level. It's just not a sane way of loving, but I think it's part of the same things.
Yeah, because three big things in attachment are actually proximity, familiarity, and similarity. Mm-hmm. Personality-wise, not physically. People get that one really confused. But those three things, they actually have a lot of, they grew up in similar circumstances, they've known each other their whole lives, and they're always together, or almost always together. It's not surprising that they're very, very attached, at all. And then because of that, they feel like it's love.
The compliment that Jaime often uses for Cersei is she says, "Oh, she's all fire." And is it this chapter or the next chapter when Jaime remembers being in Riverrun and he's sitting next to Lysa and he's like, "Oh, Lysa's boring. She's got none of Cersei's fire." And we also know that Jaime is also an impulsive person, so they've got that similarity, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. And growing up in similar circumstances, aka the exact same circumstances, really helps that as well. But, yeah.
Is the things I do for love Jaime's catchphrase whenever he considers murdering Stark children?
I think it's the thing he thinks of whenever he thinks about what Cersei wants him to do or what he should do for Cersei. If he doesn't necessarily want to do it, but he's conforming to what he thinks she wants, so he's oh, I'll do it for her.
Yeah. I mean, let's not get too let's not find too many excuses for Jaime, but I think that in this chapter, but when he thinks about Sansa, he's like almost thankful that he didn't find her first, because he know what he would have done, and he, like, thinking, okay, it's good that her father found her before I did. It means he's aware that it would have been a really bad thing to do. Yeah, he would have done it, but he also knows that it's not a good thing. So maybe that's also some kind of... I don't know if he ever expressed remorse about Bran, but I think that might be like the most we see of that.
Or like it's like the hand he used to push Bran out the window that got cut off, and like he realizes that. So like does but doesn't.
Yeah.
I feel like he doesn't want to think about pushing Bran out the window, because on some level he knows that it's, completely unjustifiable, and so he just wants to push it away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, in the same way. You go.
Yeah, he seems to be the type that, with these things I do for love, and when he kind of, does these acts for Cersei or, for whatever other purpose, he kind of just, shuts off that side, where it just shuts off his conscience a little bit, and then, commits, and then, kind of maybe turns it back on again, and, just puts that thought behind him, where he's very, very much a compartmentalizing type of person.
Yeah, it's in the same way that he doesn't finish the sentence when he's talking about Arya. If I'd found her first, and then he leaves it there. He doesn't want to bring it up, doesn't want to deal with the very awful things that he's now realizing he's capable of, or was capable of.
Agreed.
Yeah. So, anything else on the what happened in this chapter? The Darry thing, Lancel.
What do you guys think of Lancel? I feel like this is a good chance to talk about him as a character, as a person.
Yeah.
It really sucks for the Lannisters that he knows so much.
Yeah.
You mean for Cersei?
Yeah, he just can't stop telling people.
I know, he's like one of the worst people that could have, flipped.
I know.
To the other side. But, I have zero respect for him. He just has, I don't know, he was, granted, he was in the situation of his family, where he's kind of a meek type of person, around a bunch of strong personalities that kind of pushed him this way and that. But I don't know, even this and, trying to redeem himself just, feels like he's just kind of, throwing it over to the faith or the gods and just waiting for someone to tell him what to do. He's such a follower type of person.
Yeah, I feel like at no point do we see him having a real, personality of his own. Because the whole first part of his life is trying to be like Jaime, and then after his injury, he completely turns over to the faith and throws himself in way too much, really intensely, whereas he wasn't particularly religious before, but he tries to atone for his sins from before by being the most extreme follower of the faith and fasting and praying just all the time.
Well, he got severely wounded in the Battle of Blackwater.
Yes.
And, I got a bit of sympathy for him for that. And,
obviously.
He probably had a lot of time while recovering to consider all of his, crimes, and a lot of time for contemplation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still such an overreaction where he actually is, ironically fairly similar to Baelor the Blessed, and that he just throws all logic out the window for this stupid religious thing, and that just type of stuff just annoys me as someone who blindly follows a religion, doesn't think about things.
Well, you had it before. He just wants to be told what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's. I do have sympathy for him. Like,
Certainly.
how old? Yeah, sorry. How old was he when this all started? Like, when Cersei basically had him killed.
Older than Rob?
Yeah, alright, but
15, 16?
yeah, it's still kind of a kid, you know, so I don't respect him either, but I do feel like he's been manipulated by everyone his whole life, and it's like not an easy way to find yourself.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So yeah, 82, so he's,
Is he like Brienne's age?
oh wow, does that make him 28?
What?
No, 18.
No, 18. Yeah.
Ooh, someone
that's what I was-
failed math.
Well, I'm thinking, like, it
the
was,
true
no, I
philosophy,
said
okay.
82, and so I was thinking, 1982, like it would be, today. And so I'm just and not thinking that.
That's still not 28, but fair enough.
Still like fucking whatever. I'm the only American here. It's early.
Okay.
Okay.
That Thanksgiving hangover.
Food coma.
Yeah. Yeah, he's quite young actually. Cersei really does just get her claws into him and
Yeah.
use
Probably
him.
because he was so young and manipulatable.
Mm.
Yep. And, like, if he was raised, or, like, as soon as he became a page and a squire in that situation, like, it would have been quite easy for them to manipulate him as well to get what they wanted. But
Do you think he knew about Jaime and Cersei when he started
with Cersei?
sleeping with Cersei? Yeah.
Well, he says he did it because he wanted to be like Jaime, so, yeah.
Ah, not fair. There we
In
go.
this chapter, though, Jaime withholds from confessing his twincest.
Yep.
But I feel like Lancel knows, right?
Yeah,
Well,
Cersei
definitely,
would
yeah.
have told him that.
And I mean, otherwise Jaime has reason to be angry at Lancel, but not as many. And
I think
I feel
the thing
like
is
at least
he should be angrier at, like, at least he doesn't take out, like, anger on Lancel, because it's more like, I get that you're angry, but the person you should be blaming is Cersei, not someone else.
well,
Really?
he also blames her, to be fair.
Yeah, but, like, you should be, like, really pissed off at the person that you thought, like, hey, yes, I know Robert's there, but, like, he's the only other person you're allowed to sleep with. Otherwise it's just me.
Yeah. It's kind of funny reading these books when we all obviously know that the whole twincest thing, and by book 5 it's like it's so established that we forget that some of the characters don't actually know or are not sure. Or it's a bit weird because you feel like with everything that Stan has said, it's like everyone should know, right? At this point.
Well, probably more like everyone knows the rumor. But
Yeah.
Whether they believe it, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Like you have people like the Queen of Thorns that says, oh, this Baratheon who looks so very much like a Lannister. And so you're like, okay, she probably thinks or knows. But then you have people like the High Sparrow that is going to ask Cersei, oh, and what are these rumors that you're sleeping with your brother and your kids are abominations? So yeah, varied levels of knowledge.
Ooh. Do we have more to speak about on, like, Lancel, Jaime, Cersei relationship? Because
I guess, does anyone have any strong ideas for what the future holds for Lancel? Anything?
for him to go crazy off the, like, deep end.
Is he?
He's going
He's
back to
gonna
King's
get-
Landing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's his plan
the
at that
plan.
point.
And,
But, so, I
and
mean, yeah,
do we
he is gonna
see
join.
him there? Like in the later Cersei chapters?
Cersei does in her walk. Lancel's one of the 7 that is
Yeah. Alright, so he gets there, and so there's the whole idea that there's going to be a trial of the 7, and that he might be one of the Faith champions. right?
Right, but I mean,
I think
yeah,
he'll be
like,
the
if he
champion.
gets in a fight, yeah.
But he's not really a warrior anymore, though.
Right, but he's joined the
But
warrior
his cause
Sun.
is just.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, if he gets in an actual fight, like he's just gonna die, and I expect him to be dead by the end of the series, probably.
Especially if he's going up against Ungregor.
Yes.
Yeah, he's gonna
Right,
get
yeah,
cut
but-
to pieces.
Like,
Yeah, it's more like human sacrifice than actual combat.
yep.
Yeah, but
Do you think-
there also could be this idea that they do they do the full 7-on-7 if they actually do that combat for Cersei's trial. So that might be something.
I'd be curious to see like who the other members of the Seven are, because that would be really interesting. Like,
It'd have to be the Kingsguard, wouldn't it? For Cersei.
Right, but they're not all available. Is the problem?
yeah, and like Jaime's not coming back for her.
Yeah,
I mean,
and yeah,
I mean,
So Eric
Balon's
is dead.
Swan
Balon is Balon has his own thing he's doing. Yeah, because he's hunting down Darkstar.
Yeah.
The Kingsguard is like, there's not much left of it at the end of book 5. I mean, in between those who are away and like, how
Loras is still on the Kingsguard, and
Yeah, but would he
but
put his
it's, like,
life up for
dying.
Cersei?
yeah.
Like,
No.
I'm sorry, if I was Loras, I'd be like, good luck. I'm gonna sit here and look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll keep
Yeah, and
pretending
he's on
that he's been
Dragonstone
burned really
and-
bad.
Yeah.
I feel like for a trial by 7 to be, I don't know, thematically feel right, we'd have to have knowledge of all 14 participants. And I would say that this is something that the Hedge Knight does. Like, that's the entire point of that short story, is to establish who these 14 people are, what their deal is, why they're fighting in this trial by 7. And by contrast, we know basically nothing about any of the, the poor fellows and the warriors' sons.
Yeah.
So I just feel it wouldn't just, there would just be no names, red shirts to get killed.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair.
It's not the same kind of story as well. Like, it doesn't have the same heroic fantasy feel.
No, but with the Warrior Sons, you might have a lot of people that are named knights going and being like Lancel and deciding to join it, because they say that disbanded 300 years ago, and like looking for knights, like actually knights are being offered for that one, but they don't mention anything about the poor fellows, so I think that's probably common now, like warriors, soldiers.
Yeah, I mean, the poor fellows were always like their militia.
Yeah.
Okay, Sarah, did you have anything else you wanted to mention after Lancel?
Yes, I did. I actually thought that, like, this is very obvious, but, when one of the Mountain's men actually tries to rape Pia once Jaime's is in charge at Harrenhal, he's perplexed when he's beheaded by Sir Owen Payne for trying to rape her and doesn't understand why, and I think that's, like, obviously how Jaime and Gregor actually ran their camps is very, very different, but I'm curious, like, how different do you think every single commander's camp is being run? And, like, how many would actually stop someone and behead them for trying to rape just a camp follower?
Stannis would.
And I agree with that one. When I read it, I'm just like, I bet you Stannis would be the exact same. He would not be happy. But
I couldn't imagine Ned Stark standing for that.
I agree, but like,
right, but at the same time, like I feel as part of like kind of the train of any army, there seems to just be like a collection of women that are just kind of, there as a mobile brothel essentially.
Yeah, and like if you look over like in Essos, they have the Dothraki, then it's expected that if your city's taken, you will be raped, and it's very common practice.
I do get a sense that the Mountain's men are like some of the worst types.
Yeah.
Like when they're described to us and what they all do. And Jaime thinks, either in this chapter or last chapter, that the only people that are worse than them in Westeros are the Bloody Mummers.
Mm-hmm.
So the standards are probably very low in the Mountains group.
And both work for Tywin.
but it still happens, you know, a decent amount. There was a comment in a chapter from one of Jaime's chapters in Storm. The guy who escorts him down to King's Landing from Harrenhal that like Roose gives him.
Steel Shanks.
Right, yeah. Where his comment about him is, you know, he's just kind of a normal warrior. He'll come out and fight, and you know he'll like rape a woman after a battle, and then you know he'll go back home to his family. You know, it was just something along the lines of that. Where it's just like it's still, you know, obviously Gregor's men are, you know, a level above everyone else, but I still imagine it happens fairly often.
Yeah, I think it's quite common practice, unfortunately.
I think even in this case, when this man was trying to rape Pia, it wasn't even after a battle. It was just a very common occurrence. Because I do remember something about medieval history that it was essentially the right of an army sacking a city because they had risked their lives. They got to do whatever they wanted to the people inside, and that was sort of just accepted. They could loot, they could pillage, they could rape. Rape after battle was not expected, but much more, expected. Yeah.
Right. It was that era's age of just
the scars of war.
Of like, you know, trying to accommodate like the male needs when they should just be taught what the right thing to do is.
Well, I think. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say the war and battle represents the ultimate breakdown of societal rules. It's just people killing each other. So, you know, enforcing rules becomes almost impossible. Not that it's okay.
Sure.
I think in this instance though, like Pia's had a really, really shit time. Really not a great life at Harrenhal. And
I
that was
want to bring her up.
Probably where his shock came from. Because she'd been treated horrendously up until that point, and no one had said anything.
Right, now she'd been
I think it's the whole, I mean, it's the previous chapter, right? But the whole description of Harrenhal and all the horrors there is gruesome, and you feel so bad for everyone who's lived there. But I agree that there's a slight gap between Jaime's reactions now and what seems to be commonly accepted in the Westerosi society.
It seems to be like the more upright and noble people, not necessarily including Jaime in that, but like Stannis, who's very by the book, and Ned, who is always considered very honourable, wouldn't accept it, but other people do accept it of their men.
It's probably Brienne's influence on him has a big part of that, I'd imagine. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he would have done this before meeting Brienne. That's what I mean.
If he would have killed them, because for a lot of people,
if it would have hurt him as much, so
punished. Yeah, they might be punished, but not necessarily killed. But
yeah, you're right. And also the fact that he knows Pia.
Yeah.
In this chapter, actually, because we are still kind of talking about the previous one, although it's linked, we have, so that's one of Baden's notes. She says, there's an interesting line where Jaime says, no harm in him bedding her so long as she's willing, when he's talking about his squire and Pia. And so that's an interesting, the fact that he thinks that so long as she's willing. It's an interesting contrast with Tyrion's actions in the last Reread episode, and with actually the interpretation of the Sept scene that we're not gonna go into really, but it's always this blurry line with Jaime where you're not sure what he really thinks of those issues.
Yeah, it's we can hope he means if she gives consent, it's okay. But it seems that
Yeah. Also, I feel like it's very specific to Pia because of her situation, because he feels sorry for her. And I don't think this reflects his opinion on rape as a whole.
Yeah.
And more specifically, like, doesn't want Pia to suffer any more than she already has.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, she's had it as bad as pretty much anyone else. It's like it's her and Jane Poole are like the two that like had it the worst, I feel, of like characters we know. And you see that quote in here that she smiled after seeing that guy's like head on a pike or whatever. She really has the potential of like becoming another Arya if she continues like this with all the trauma she's gone through.
Poor girl. Yes, Jock, are you with us?
I wondered whose face that was.
That's Jock. Yes.
Yeah.
You came on and like you had the video on and I just cracked up laughing, so I had to mute myself. I can't laugh.
Well, welcome. So let's try and move on a bit because it's already like time flies. Still about the Jaime chapter actually. So there's another of Bina's notes that I found lovely. She says, it's genuinely lovely to see misrule righted and Saul being tilled. Sam Gamgee would be happy. Yeah, he would.
Yeah, no, that was actually a very like interesting scene to open the chapter where he comes upon like the fields and it's like the women are doing all the work because the men have to just be there to like protect them in case of bandits. And you know they're always on the lookout and like as soon as they see like a troop coming they just retreat inside the castle. Just it was interesting, intriguing scene just to kind of show you like how bad it is in the Riverlands these days.
I think Darry got hit especially hard.
Yeah, because they've had like 7 different rulers. It says in this chapter.
Yeah.
I thought it was
entire line is almost done.
Oh, yeah, in the male line, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, it has to go through the female line now. But actually, I think this chapter's opening was great because it did show that towns and villages and castles are being rebuilt. It's a slow process, but things are sort of like people are trying to make their homes again. But also, I was so happy that they saw an approaching army and didn't care what the colors were and were just like, yeah, I'm going to go back inside my walls so people can defend me. I'm just like,
yeah,
common sense, great job. Thank you.
I mean, it's only taken the castle to get sacked how many times before they realised maybe we should hide inside.
But like Jaime's sort of like, damn, this is a cold welcoming, and I'm like, you're an idiot. If they stayed out and it wasn't you guys and people were just pretending to be Lannisters, they'd all be dead.
Well, Lannister forces have already sacked the castle once.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too.
I had one. There's a character in this, Strongbow. He's like kind of one of those side characters. He's like, I think of him like the Lannister's Great John, I guess.
Yeah.
Kinda. Do you reckon he's gonna go after River Run, the siege is lifted? He's gonna go and find the Brotherhood, right?
And get killed.
Yeah,
I just think he'll talk really big and then he'll be killed in 2 seconds flat.
In this chapter, he's got his eyes on Amy.
Gatehouse Amy.
Yeah, Gatehouse Amy. So, and Lancel is not going to marry. Well, he's married, but he's renounced it. So, I wouldn't be surprised if those two hook up.
Right. They also bring up Harwin Plum, who's also mentioned in here that she has eyes for.
Yeah. And she also had eyes for Jaime and tried to put the moves on his golden hair. Didn't work.
That's the thing, I can feel that.
Yeah, that was pretty amusing, but also at the same time, it's like it seems to be somewhat of her coping mechanism, as she's very has also been through trauma herself, and seems like a fairly frightened person.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, but Strongbow might be interesting playing later.
I could see a Strongbow lemon cloak fight. That would be pretty epic.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun.
Actually, do you think Strongbow would be put up in the Lord's chambers like Jaime was, which are connected to her ones, so he can see him? Because reading this, I'm just like, yeah, that was like, I bet you she organized that and was just like, he's gonna sleep here, and then in the middle of the night, I'm gonna sneak in, and it's gonna be great.
I see, yeah, with the, with where they put Jaime. But it's just also because Lancel's not using them at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I'm sure they had other quarters that were probably nicer furnished if he didn't get rid of everything.
I don't think he got rid of everything. I think it was that the castle had been sacked, so everything had been taken, so they don't have good furniture.
Oh, that's not the way I understood it, yeah.
Because I think Lancel got rid of it all because he's being pious and is trying to live, like, as simply as possible, and, like, having this massive bed and this grand furniture in his room doesn't fit the image of what he's trying to become. So I took it as he got rid of everything because, like, if you're staying there and if you think, yep, I'm going to make this my seat, I'm going to be in charge of this castle now, why would you take and destroy the bed? Like,
no, I'm saying from when it got, like, stacked, but, the 5 times earlier.
No.
Just because I think there's even, I thought there was, like, a line in the chapter
I thought
said, like,
that the castle had been sacked and Jaime actually wonders, like, thinks to himself, why didn't he buy a new bed or have one built? And that reflects, like, what
there you go.
Lancel thinks of giant beds, but the reason the bed isn't here in the first place is because it was sacked.
So yeah, I guess another note here is they bring up Sir Bonifer Hasty, who is currently in control of Harrenhal.
He's a religious nut, isn't he?
Right, yeah, so it's him and his Holy 100. I'm more like the Holy 86 at this point, but
are they going to go to King's Landing and join?
So yeah, I'm curious about that. Yeah, if I feel like there's going to be an inevitable conflict, with the poor fellows and the warrior sons, so he's probably more likely to join them.
I think so.
Than he is, whatever forces fighting against them. Also, just an interesting note was I googled him, and he was a former lover of Rhaella Targaryen, which was interesting.
Yeah.
It was also with reading the Dany chapter in this section here, where I'm kind of curious as to what the warrior sons and the poor fellows stance will be on her when she arrives.
Well, the faith historically hates the Targaryens because of the incest and the magic.
Yeah, but on the other hand, her whole thing is freeing the slaves and all, and helping the Smallfolk. So I'm curious
I guess
how
the
it's going
thing
to play
is,
out.
if they can keep Tommen as a puppet ruler, a figurehead, just kill off Cersei, keep Tommen as a puppet figurehead, and then he is easily controllable, whereas Dany isn't necessarily, and they don't like Targaryens to begin with. They might just stick with Tommen.
I guess if that's their goal.
That Tommen will be dying very soon.
Yeah, that's true. I just never thought as their order as one to attempt to have a puppet king.
But then again, they might just decide not to have a ruler and be the faith will rule.
Yeah. I guess, it is. It is hard to know exactly what their end game is. And
I have the feeling that they're going to latch onto, Aegon? Aegon the Sixth, or Phaegon. If you go to that prophecy of the dragon being cheered on by the crowd, I just feel like Aegon and his forces will present this really good alternative to the Lannisters. They're quite fed up with.
Yeah, pre-Dany, I suppose.
And also, they're going to get there before Dany, so they'll be absorbing that goodwill and the need for change.
I wonder if Varys and them have been in contact.
Possibly.
And the faith. Varys and the faith.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's that simple. Like I'm not sure the faith as a whole has one goal or one voice or
right.
So yeah.
High Sparrow's got a lot of power.
Yeah, for sure. But
and he's.
But will there be a lot of infighting among members of the faith because they've gone from like previous regimes where it's like very lax to being very extreme?
Yeah, but I feel like the High Section's been weeding out all the corrupt ones.
Yeah.
I mean they're trying to cleanse everything, and that's quite a broad goal. Mm-hmm. So it's easy to kind of work towards it with loads of people, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Should we move on to Dany?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't have anything to say about like the salt pans with their hound stuff, but I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
I think it's an interesting. Like this chapter is great because you have it makes note of like all the possible outlaws out there, and we as readers can be like, well, that's Lady Stoneheart, and that's not actually the Hound, and that's so. It gives us a good situation of the mess the Riverlands are, and the different characters and who are acting in them.
And reading it for the first time as well, like ages ago, it was really good because it gave you hints at stuff, and you can be like, but I thought Sandor Clegane died before. And then they're saying someone's wandering around in his helmet. So it like sort of gave you hints as well, like of a puzzle, so you can think about stuff.
Yeah, it's always infuriating to me though, having mention of Arya, when without anyone knowing it's her. But yeah. Okay. Let's move on to Dany. So after Jaime 4, we move to Dany 5 in Dance, which is a day later. And this is a long chapter, but we put the beginning here. So here we go. We have Michael, right?
Yes. I've done my best to try and summarize this as much as I can. Alright, so Daenerys counts approximately 25 ships from Karth, New Geese, Tolos, and other slave cities which are blockading trade from Meereen. Her Admiral Grolio counsels her to unleash her dragons and burn the fleet, but Daenerys refuses. When she tells Grolio to build new ships for a navy, he refuses with such bitterness that Dany briefly wonders if Grolio will be the next person prophesied to betray her. Skahaz Mokundak suggests taking hostages from the blockading sailors' families in Meereen, but Daenerys also refuses. Skahaz then fills Dany in on Hizdar Zalurak's movements. He has visited 11 of the pyramids, and so far the killings have ceased for 26 days. Skahaz argues that Hizdar must be the Harpy to have achieved this, and asks to have him questioned, aka tortured, but Dany says she must trust Hizdar or blood will flow on the streets of Meereen. The Grey Worm and the Green Grace arrive and tell her that a survivor from Astapor has arrived in Meereen, who has contracted the bloody flux, and said that Astapor was burning before he died. More survivors arrive later, telling her that Astapor has been destroyed, and many refugees are now fleeing to Meereen, infected with the bloody flux as well. After much counsel, Daenerys ultimately decides that she cannot allow these refugees into Meereen for fear of the illness spreading, and closes her gates to them. Once more, she is asked to unleash her dragons on Yunkai, but Dany refuses, fearing for their ability to be controlled. Sir Barristan asks her to bring the battle to the Yonkish forces, but Daenerys counters that if she takes the Unsullied out of Meereen, the Sons of the Harpy will rise up. Finally, Daenerys concludes that for the good of the city, she must marry Hizdar Zalurak.
Thank you. It's a sad chapter overall.
So yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of
everything
a lot
is
of
going to
characters
shit. Literally.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
A lot of characters are refusing each other and saying, you should do this, no, you should do this, no, and a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, but they're all being advisors and telling her what they think is best. It's up to her to make a decision about it.
Oh yes, no, absolutely, and I think the decisions that Daenerys does make are ultimately like the right ones, the wisest, the best options she has. I've always wondered though what would happen if she unleashed her dragons, because she's like the Unsullied are like we're scared to go feed them because they're just fucking savage. And I wonder if Daenerys has any mode of control over them, or if they just, I don't know, fly away or get killed or what.
Yeah.
Because
At the start of this chapter, I'm just like, Dany, stop being such a little bitch and just unleash the dragons and do what you have to do so your people survive. And then thinking about it, I'm like, I bet you she can't actually control them that much anymore. And if she can't control them, there's no point releasing them because they might as easily just burn her city and her people and not her enemies.
Yeah, I think that's what really weighs in on her. Like she's, in a lot of ways, I'd say what Barristan said to her in A Storm of Swords about becoming another Mad King has really weighed on her, and she's worried about, burning her city to the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's a compounded problem of, having the first dragons, in a century or so, and, not knowing what to do, where it's, there are no old instruction manuals that the old Targaryens left, because that was a huge thing where, they would bond with the dragon from a young age and were able to have a solid semblance of control over it. But at this point, they're just running.
Do you think that's all it's down to, is just time spent with the dragons?
Somewhat, but I imagine they're, or just like treating them like a pet of some sort.
It's like training a dog.
Might have the dragon's temperament as well as time you spend with them, because it might be like dogs, which is what you're about to say, Michael, right? You can train them, but if they don't want to do what you're telling them, they're not going to.
Dogs quite interesting. Breathe fire and destroy cities.
Yeah.
But they're just like dogs.
A lot more dangerous.
But if you've tried to train a puppy and you don't have an instruction manual, they're pissing everywhere, they're barking, it's a real pain, and you need to that's why you need to go to dog training school, but...
And she doesn't have that option.
No,
there is no dragon training school.
How to train your dragons. There's some cartoons up in here. And perhaps with the magic element of it, there might be, some sort of war-esque link between a dragon rider and their dragon. Perhaps,
It'd be interesting to find out, because in the Dance of Dragons, when Rhaenyra tries to get more dragon riders, and they just kind of jump on their back, is it because they're already broken in, or is it just that? Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting to read that manual.
Warged a lot, because if you look at Bran with Hodor, because he's been inside him so many times, it's very easy for him to take control. So it might be like that because the dragon's been inside so many times. Anyone can take control.
They do mention that the wild dragons are much harder to tame than the ones that have already been ridden. You're more likely to get killed and burnt alive if you try taming the crazy wild ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And during the Dance of the Dragons, weren't there several books on specifically things like Leiden dragons? Didn't Tyrion mention there's one in the Citadel and
I think Tyrion's read some of them when he was younger and was having dragon dreams.
Yeah, I think there's probably a few things that are left that can help with the dragons. That's the whole point of Tyrion going to Dany. But
and
on
also
the other
more than
hand,
the mage.
yeah, yeah, and I think it's kind of it's in-world realistic that the dragons wouldn't just be easy to control, but at the same time it's really frustrating as well, because we've come from like Karth to Astapor, and the whole, oh my god, Dany's like, she's such a badass, and the whole Astapor story was you were really invested in her. And then she goes to Meereen, and it's like, well, the dragons, I can't control them anymore. So it's frustrating because you can't see it changing anytime soon. It's like the situation is just unsolvable in each of its aspects. So it's a bit frustrating.
If you go to the final Daenerys chapter, where she and Balerion, Drogon, spend a lot of time together, right at the end, they seem to really, mind merge, or they get on even footing. And so I think Daenerys, right at the end of A Dance with Dragons, has now got some significant control of Drogon. We'll see.
That'd be good.
Yeah, I think that was...
Isn't that the most time she's spent with her dragons since they've become adults and are no longer babies? So it might be that their minds have to grow up enough so they're no longer children to understand.
And it's also when she undergoes these various realizations, Mereen is not going to be my home. I need to embrace this fire and blood personality, and that starts to gel with Drogon, it would seem.
Yeah, it's the whole point of her storyline and Dance, and also kind of the frustrating part. At least for me, because it was pretty much obvious from chapter 1 and 2 that the clear answer to her problems is to stop kind of putting down her Targaryen personality and bring it out, and that'll help her succeed as a ruler, and also with what she wants to do. But the fact that it just takes the whole book to get there is annoying. You're just kind of waiting for it to happen. But this chapter in particular kind of starts to show a turning point where she actually starts to make the hard decisions rather than just being constantly wishy-washy all the time. Although she really is in an untenable situation here, especially if she's unwilling to unleash her dragons, just because she kind of doesn't have the manpower to really defend the city at this point properly. And frankly, she would have ended up losing the Battle of Fire if the Ironborn hadn't shown up.
Do you think so?
We still don't really know, but
I would disagree, but yeah.
I back Barristan all day long.
Right.
I just think
he's as good as having a fucking dragon.
Yeah, but he also needs the walls behind him just because of the manpower, and the problem she does go to fix that at the end of this chapter with kind of stopping the revolt that's going on inside her walls, so she can just focus on the one enemy. Then they can win. That's true.
Yeah, that's
even without the dragons, but they still couldn't have dealt with the blockade without the Ironborn.
Yeah, I think just to finish about the dragons, they also I think we've seen that in this chapter that we're reading, that they're the reason why the second sons turn and turn against her.
Yeah, Brownbed Plum is incredible in this chapter. Once you know what he's gonna do, just seeing all his he makes the best suggestions out of all of the counselors, number one, and you just see him immediately turn, and then
you can see the moment where he makes his decision.
It's okay, well, you're not gonna use the dragons, all right, then let's get the fuck out of here. Take some money as we go. Oh, you're not gonna do that, all right. I'll go scout. Give me some money and horses, please. He's just so quick to react to the situation and put himself on the winning side. It's really incredible. And
sly bastard.
It's like his quote that about
There are old
added a second
sellswords
ago.
and bold sellswords.
Bold swords, but no
there will never be an
old
old
sellswords.
sellsword.
Yeah.
Yo, like,
Say that.
Dany, you've heard that quote, you should expect it. But,
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I would still want him on my side just because of how intelligent he is.
yes.
He comes across as very practical.
And that's probably why he was just like, okay, it's time to go because we aren't going to win. I'm going to die. My men are going to die. Let's get as much as we can out of this crazy chick and then bolt without being suspected.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, essentially he's a coward, I guess you could say, but, like, I completely understand his motives. Like, Daenerys
He's a sellsword.
I'm not really. I'm like, no, you did the smart thing.
Agreed. Like, he's a sellsword. Like, she's the foolish one for trusting him and leaving him alone to go up and do what he wants to. It's just like, no, you should send one of your trusted people or, like, a group of them and, like, split his men up so it's, like, 50% your people you can trust him, 50% his people, and send them off together. So, like, stuff should at least sort of work out. So, I say go home. And she's sort of naive.
So something else in this chapter is, and this is actually pointed out in the Meereen's Blot essay, is that Daenerys is given these various obstacles and she has to give up various things that she wants or would like to have for the sake of peace. So one of them is the use of her dragons. The second is she has to close the gates on the suffering Astapori refugees because she can't let the illness spread to her city. And I would even argue that when she finally decides to marry Hizdar, subconsciously she's making the choice that she'll never go to Westeros. I mean, she says, at some point I will. I just don't think if this marriage was going to take place and seal the peace, from a practical sense, Daenerys is now stuck in Meereen forever. Obviously that's not going to happen. We know she's going to go to Westeros, or very strongly suspect. But yeah, she's giving up a lot of these things throughout these chapters.
I really the second last line of this chapter, which is when she thinks to herself, a queen belongs not to herself, but to her people. And I think that's finally having the penny drop that she needs to be loved by her people and needs to sacrifice for them, sacrifice everything, not just certain things she's willing to give up.
Yeah, she makes genuine sacrifices, and I would say this is a point in Dany's favor. Like, she genuinely wants what's best for her people. So she's not Cersei, at least.
Yep.
The polar opposite.
Actually,
yeah, as frustrating as the storyline is, like, she does learn valuable lessons here that she can apply, later on.
She does, actually. This chapter with that has a bit of a parallel to the Jaime chapter we just read, which was when he was thinking that Lancel needs to be loved by his people and do what Arthur Dayne did when going after the Smiling Knight and the Kingswood Brotherhood, to make the people and the Smallfolk love him so they will help him and won't betray him. That is what Dany needs to do, because she needs to get her house in order before she can go outside and fight the Yunkai, and by doing that she does need to make her people love her and everyone, not just slaves.
Yeah, and that's why I brought up the poor fellows and the warrior sons perhaps being willing to support her in future books.
Does anyone have any opinions on Hizdar Zolurak and whether you think he's the Harpy or not? Or whether you think there is a Harpy?
Yeah, no, I really liked the positioning of that idea that there isn't a Harpy and that they're kind of just like using terror cell like insurgent tactics of just having like small cells of people, that don't really know the actions and the identities of the others. Where I think that would be an interesting idea. I feel like if there's a Harpy, it's probably the Green Grace, but
yeah, that's who my money's on.
Like she seems the only viable candidate, who frankly like is intelligent enough, just because Hisdar and, like, you know, other options like Hisdar or like Resnack or something, I don't know, they just don't seem to have the cunning to pull that off.
I haven't read a lot of Dany chapters in a while, especially the later ones. Reading it, if this was a Korean drama, my money would be on Skarhaz or Shave Pate as the leader of the Brazen Beasts, but, like, I can't remember what happens later on. Yep, as the Harpy, and that he's fabricating everything, and that the people he brings in are actually people who aren't members of the Harpies, and gets fake confessions out of them. That's what I'd put my money on, but I can't remember what happens later in the book, so...
Don't they kill his men, though?
Yeah, but see, that would involve, like, faking the deaths of a bunch of people.
Yeah,
unless they're, like, people who got brought in and, like, he didn't actually trust and had them on different shifts and was just like, these people are gonna go, and aren't members of the Harpies, they were just members of the Brazen Beasts. But...
Yeah. I just don't think his actions and his, like, personality line up with that. Like, I read him as just kind of an opportunist who just decided to attach himself to Dany to advance, and also just one who just likes violence.
He's going hard.
And it just is, it just doesn't line up with, like, a cold, calculating, kind of, like, rebellious leader.
Okay.
But I mean, that's just, you know, me.
No, it's probably right, because I really can't remember what happens later on, so you guys are probably right.
Yeah, I mean, there's no, you know, clear answer one way or the other yet. And frankly, it's not really that important in the grand scheme of things, I feel.
Yeah, get back to Westeros. Shapeate's so bloodthirsty, though. Everything, I feel like all of his suggestions are murder the children.
Kill this one, kill that one.
Yeah.
Burn down the pyramids.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, speaking of bloodthirsty, with Astapor and how the Yunkai set fire to it, I actually thought, being very pragmatic, I'm like, that's very smart if they know that the people inside have the bloody flux and it is a plague. That's the safest option, is to burn everything, because that way you do destroy the disease that's carrying it, and it is the safest way to get rid of everything. And if the Yunkai know that they had the bloody flux, that is the best option for them. So it's horribly horrible, but it's also a smart, pragmatic decision.
Mm.
Yeah. I get the sense that Astapor got burnt just because they were sieging it, and that's what happens when you sack cities, like...
That too?
Yeah.
But they said they locked everyone in.
But now people are escaping because they've broken the walls down, or the gates have come down.
Yeah, and then everyone's gonna come to Mereen, and good luck, Dany. I hope you're ready to burn stuff.
Yeah. Well, about that. That is one thing that kind of annoyed me in this chapter, was, like, how long it kind of takes her to realize, you know, like, this is the pale, like, this is the bright, shining, you know, vision of the pale mare that you receive. Like, her reaction should have been, like, immediately, like, get that dude out of the city. Like...
No, it should have been, like, burn his corpse right now. Everyone who was involved in it, like, burn everything. Like, sterilize everything.
But yeah, I just feel like it takes her way too long to, like, understand, like, the significance of the pale mare and, like, the plague coming.
And, like, she wasn't listening to what her advisors were saying, and saying, like, it's a disease. And she's like, oh no, it's just like, he was injured, not he has a disease, and people are going to bring it here.
Anyone else has anything about the Dany chapter?
She's in a hard place.
She's caught between two rocks. Or should I say two armies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does the Yunkish fleet, or is it the Carthene fleet, they increase, right? Or is it the same number, do you reckon, by the time Victarion comes? Do more arrive every day?
I just don't remember. Victarion arrives in the preview chapters, right? Or is it?
He gets there with like 80.
I mean, he's pretty close by the end of the book.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I absolutely don't remember.
It keeps growing from just like other, random ships, from like the slavers basically to join.
New Geese. All those.
Yeah, but also stuff out of like Meereen and Yunkai, I think. Just ships that had been that had fled and now are returning. And also, I think the Volantine fleet like ships off by that time too.
Yeah.
I think Victarion runs into some of the Volantine fleet like on his way over to Meereen as well. So they're coming as well, although they might not all be there yet.
Mm-hmm.
I got another one on the dragons again. How do you think Dany's going to transport them? Is they just suddenly going to start listening to her, or is she going to have to find like makeshift dragon riders, or is she going to have to leave a trail of dead sheep all the way to Westeros? Like in that Family Guy when he what was he doing? Trying to catch someone. I can't remember. Just leaving a trail.
Yeah. And then set a trap.
How do you think she's gonna do it? Is she just gonna have to do some makeshift dragon riding, or
maybe she might be able to
ride one at a time?
Yeah, she might be able to just have the other two follow her by riding on the back of Drogon.
Hopefully.
As he's clearly the alpha of the group.
Maybe it'll be through him actually. Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm having a hard time picturing her moving towards Westeros anyway. Even though
she's never going to get there.
No, but she wants to keep everyone with her. So unless everyone just dies in the battle, and she can just go happily with her 3 dragons and three people, it seems like a very hard journey.
I imagine after the Battle of Fire, there is going to be some sort of stability in Meereen, and I think a lot of people are going to die, probably all of the masters may be killed. And so, yeah, some will come with her, some of the slaves, but I think some will also remain in Meereen because the slavery power will be broken.
Yeah, I think really only the fighting people are going to follow her. At least a majority of them will just be mostly the various companies.
From the final chapter, you do get a very strong sense that Daenerys is done with Meereen, even in just a story sense.
Mm-hmm. There's no done with Meereen.
There's no narrative trajectory for her to remain in Meereen.
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty much just going to be the battle and then negotiations at this point. I imagine she'll return to Vaes Dothrak for a chapter or two. But that'll be about it. And it's really just going to be kind of negotiating with all the players and with the Ironborn and the Volantine.
Mm-hmm.
If we get enough ships to transfer her and whoever wants to fight for her, kind of dealing with all the mercenary companies and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, on that, let's move on to Davos, if you all agree, because I think we will have a lot of things to discuss in that chapter too, and we're already an hour and a half in, so is that alright with everyone? Or any burning points about Dany? Alright,
yes,
cool.
Please, let's move on. I have literally nothing more to say about Dany. I'm so done with Meereen.
Alright. So after Dany 5, we move to Davos 4, which is on the next day, and it's actually just one chapter earlier. So this is intense. Okay, Matt, you go.
Sure. I wanted to bring up something real quick before, because there's a line in this, I don't bring it up in my recap really, but there's a line in this chapter that mentions that Deepwood Mott has fallen, and yet we haven't talked about the Asha chapter yet, so I feel like there was a slight error in
that's a good point actually.
The linear reread order.
So when does the Asha chapter arrive?
It's in two more rereads. I think it's 5 or 6 chapters from now.
That's weird. All right.
Yeah, it was just an odd timeline issue, but it's not super important.
Is that chapter flashbacks though?
So, right, but that would be, no, so, I actually just looked up the summary of it, and it seems to happen live, because that was my thought, too.
You see her escaping, don't you? And she says, Galbert Glover's name about 20 times.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because it ends with her getting knocked out, at the end of the battle. So in reality, this chapter, should have taken place about, 2 days after that, but.
Yeah.
It's
okay,
not,
so there's clearly a
super big deal.
Well, we're here now, so let's do Davos, but you're right.
Yeah. So here we go. My name is Davos Seaworth, child of Fleabottom, the Onion Knight, hand of the rightful king of Westeros, and today I await my execution. At least I will die a knight. Not many slum kids can say that. I just hope that they take my head before my hands. As places to await death go, the tower cell in the Wolf's Den is bigger than any cabin I've had on a ship and better than the sea-soaked cells below. I've risen to a station many men could only dream of, but at what cost? 4 dead sons, a wife I haven't seen in years, and 2 more sons who don't know my face. The only one remaining to me who remains close has certainly followed in my footsteps, choosing Stannis' cause over his family. I was a better smuggler than a knight, a better knight than a king's hand, and a better king's hand than a husband. Mare, I failed you more than I failed the king, and it seems that it is time, as they've come to collect me. However, the executioner turns out to be Robert Glover, returned from Harrenhal, along with Willis Manderly and Wendell's Bones. Much and more has happened. Stannis has taken back Deepwood Mott from Asha, Ramsay has taken Moat Cailin, the Fraser in the north, and Roose has called his banners to attend the wedding of Ramsay and the fake Arya. The 2 men walked through the Godswood where the heart tree had grown into the rest of the holdfast. Its face looked fat and angry. They trudged through the damp cellars beneath the castle's stair, and then through a false wall into a small chamber where sat the colossal lord of White Harbor. My name is Wyman Manderly, lord too fat to sit a horse, taker of lengthy shits, father of 2 brave daughters, man of the north. And you, Lord Davos, are dead. The Freys are upstairs celebrating your demise and the weddings to come. I'm sorry, I've treated you most shamefully. But now my son has returned, and this mummer's farce is almost done. I'm fat, and many think that makes me weak and foolish. My friends of Frey watch me close, waiting for me to misstep. They've compromised several guardsmen, 2 knights, a handmaiden, and even my fucking maester. These roaches infest my city, force me to choke on their terrible lies, and swallow them down like it's the most delicious pie I've ever had in my life. I mean, they're not even trying. A were-direwolf? Get the fuck out of here. Simon, Jared, and Rhaegar. Imagine, a weasel taking a dragon's name. Luckily, I have a new recipe I've been meaning to try. My son Wendell came to the twins a guest. He ate Lord Walder's bread and salt, hung his sword upon the wall to feast with friends, and they fucking murdered him. Him and my king. But my king had brothers. And like you, they're not as dead as they appear. The Freys are not the only ones trying to create an alternate history. This here is Wex, former squire of the Turncloak Theon Greyjoy. He saw the 2 brothers rise out of the crypts of Winterfell with 4 companions and 2 wolves. After Winterfell, the brothers split, and he could only follow one to the coast of the Narrow Sea. You know, as a boy I loved to ride, but now my body has become a prison more dire than the Wolf's Den. However, I have no other choice. I've been building warships for more than a year, hidden up the White Knife. I have more heavy horse than any other lord in the north, and I can deliver King Stannis the allegiance of all lands east of White Harbor. If you, my dead man, can deliver a feral child from the land of cannibals and unicorns. Well, what say you to that, my lord? Well, you didn't say the line. Oh, for fuck's sake. The North remembers, Lord Davos. Now bring me a Lord of Winterfell. My name is Davos Seaworth. I'm a dead smuggler, but I am not yet done. And that's it.
That was great.
Version 10 out of 10. This is so good. Great job.
I like how you couldn't say, my name is Wex.
Took some Gladiator inspiration on that one.
Nice.
Yeah, I can see that.
I love that line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great chapter.
Man, after finishing this, I just had the Game of Thrones theme song. It just started playing in my head. Like, the chapter ended, and then it faded off, and I'm just like, okay, this is a great place to stop. It's so good.
Yeah. No, it's a shame it was only like halfway through the book.
I know.
And then we didn't see him again.
Yeah.
Like, the thing is, in the linear order, it's this way-ish. But in the published order, it's this chapter and then the Dany chapter, and it's just like, you'd go from such a high, and then you'd be like, oh. Oh.
Yeah, I'm glad we've ended on this one.
Oh, agreed. I'm glad I'm glad we got to read it in this order with the linear reread.
Mm.
And like, it went from interesting to stuff happened, like thought-provoking.
the treading water.
Yep. And then to such a great ending.
I mean,
So
the North chapters in Dance are just great, right?
Yeah.
Really, yeah, it's definitely the best part of the book, I feel.
So this is the last Davos chapter, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So sad. I love you, Davos.
Yeah, he's great.
It's so good. Oh. Actually, when I was speaking about double smuggling, I just thought of Taken. I have a special set of skills line. That's all I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is like one of the reasons I really like Davos, is that like he has this like one skill that like he's really, really good at. And it's fun to see him like returning to his element in the next book.
I know. And like, he even acknowledges in this very chapter that the best thing he is a smuggler. Like, that's the absolute best thing he is, and he gets to do it. Soon.
Yeah.
You don't see it yet. So excited.
Yeah, no, I heard, I read about a theory, like, I don't know, a month or so ago, where someone suggested that, like, kind of in order to, convince, either, like, Rickon to return with him or, with the wildlings or whoever, lives on Skagos to, like, give up Rickon, he's gonna, like, lead a rescue mission of Hard Home. And I would love to see that come to pass.
To rescue the wildlings.
Yeah, who are like still stuck there. That like
with that mother mole.
Yeah, that the Night's Watch can't get back just because of all like the rough seas up there. And so like they bring in like an expert to like help get them out.
Yeah.
And why would the Skagos care about that?
I have no idea. It was just
But like Osha might, because
that's why it's just a theory.
Yeah.
That's why it's just a theory.
Yeah.
Like, we have no idea. I mean, because we have no, like, sense of what their people are actually like. Like, it's just a bunch of silly rumors that, are probably may have some modicum of truth, but are clearly not the whole situation that's going on there.
the whole thing about them being cannibals, I'm like, I bet you they're not, and they just spread that around so they don't have people coming and harassing them all the time. Like,
yeah, that's kind of that's a popular thought amongst people. And yeah, it may have started just because, as we see in this chapter, where we get some of the kind of the backstory of the Wolf's Den and hear about this guy called, Ice Eyes, and it kind of enforces the, like, brutality and all, like, the blood sacrifice that kind of, like, happened, in the North before the Andals came. And so, some of those practices might still exist, or, they at least existed, in close enough proximity history-wise that, the kind of the legends and the rumors stayed, amongst this people.
or whether it was just in very hard times when there wasn't food, they would go and resort to cannibalism.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So do you
also,
think...
I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly, but I think in the World Book, they talked about how Skagos was part of the North for a while, and then they just kind of went into their own thing and didn't really treat with the Wardens of the North and Kings in the North. But at some point they were quote unquote civilized Northerners and not wildlings from beyond the wall.
Well, I mean, they were those people were all much more, similar back in the day when they were all first men in the first place.
So I don't know where the cannibalism rumors come from, because it makes it seem like this place has always been completely isolated and there hasn't been contact with the rest of the North, but it doesn't seem like this has been the case, really. I feel like, I kind of agree with the theory that they're letting this rumor spread around as much as possible so that people leave them alone and they can just do their own thing.
I agree, Alix. Okay. But, definitely.
Kind of like how Iceland is called Iceland because they didn't want anyone bothering them, and it's not that icy cold. It's actually pretty warm because of all the volcanic shit.
Yep.
Alright, anything Grey Northern conspiracy? What do you...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope it's on. But then what's Wyman's game here? He's sending Davos off to get Rickon, but this is what makes me think that there are individual, kind of like in Meereen, individual cells of the Northern Conspiracy working independently of each other.
Yeah, with different agendas.
Yeah. Because some people, clearly Wyman's back in Rickon, but some people are back in Jon, like the Mountain Clansmen. The ones that turn up at the wall for the wedding.
The Manderlys are the only ones that know, and to be honest, it's safer if they don't tell anyone, because that way no one can tell the Boltons, no one can go up and try to kill Rickon. It's a lot safer if you keep it in-house and quiet about it.
Yeah. I think Lady Dustin is in on this part of the Northern Conspiracy by the time Frey Pies come about. Because don't you see someone talking with Ronald Stout, her kind of Castellan general dude? Or is that right?
So do you think she's a double agent, or she's pretending?
She's definitely on board with Manderly and.
Oh, okay. I always thought she was genuine in her hate for Ned Stark and the other Starks.
Yeah,
she might hate Stark, but she hates Boltons more. She hates Ramsay.
Yeah, she lost a lot of kin at the Red Wedding, and was it also because of Domeric?
Yeah, because Domeric was killed by Ramsay is what she thinks, because it was...
Yeah. Well, I think that is what happened.
Well, right. That's one of those things that's pretty much true, but...
Yep.
Yeah, we'll never get, the smoking gun confirmation.
Yeah.
But do we need it, honestly?
No.
We don't. Yeah,
so that...
did the Lady Hornwood.
Oh, God, yeah.
I guess the one I've never thought about too much, where I was always under the impression that the lords don't have that much contact between each other, and that they all just hate the Boltons so much that they just want to rebel, and they just happen to be working towards a common goal, but there isn't really much communication between the various houses, but everyone's just kind of waiting for their opportunity, and it'll come together during the battle.
It'd also be really hard to try to communicate between houses with their terrain, and it's coming into winter, and if any of their messengers get intercepted, they're stuffed. like completely and utterly stuffed. And then again, if you might think one house is like for the Starks and against the Boltons, but in fact if they're not, you're stuffed. So it's probably at Winterfell, all of the houses are looking at each other and being like, okay, who is and isn't, and then that's quite possibly where they start teaming up. Or everyone's getting ready for shit to go down.
Well, that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting, to see who, is there going to be like a civil war in the north once the Boltons get dealt with? Or are they all just going to kind of be like, oh no, we're all friends because we're northerners and we all want the Starks back? But is it going to matter which Stark? Do you see what I mean?
I would say it'll be half and half. Like, there'll be some tensions, definitely, because I'm expecting Sansa to return to the north by Littlefinger's plan, so she'll be a candidate. Possibly Bran.
And she'll
but that's only if Bran comes back anyway. Yep.
But multiple candidates. So wouldn't say a full-out civil war, but there will be tensions that various characters will have to navigate.
And it'll probably also be up to the Stark children to be like, no, I think this person should rule. They have the best claim. I'll follow them.
Well, Rickon will have the best claim.
He does.
Right, yeah.
And Manderly would want to act as regent.
Yeah, the issue is Rickon will not be probably
suitable,
old enough to be like, like Sansa or Bran, or could be like, well, no.
Maybe Jon, if he comes back as well, could act as a regent and act in his stead for a period until he comes of age.
I mean, I think it's going to come down to Rickon and Sansa would be the main two, as kind of the other ones are doing their own thing and probably won't appear until much later.
Yeah, but like, will Sansa back down when Rickon is found or not? Because she will want to protect her own interest as well, and Rickon might be kind of a puppet to Manderly, who is like
also like feral.
Also.
Yeah.
Good luck to Davos trying to tame him. I don't know, might be easier to tame one of those dragons.
But then again, Davos might be one of the better people to send because he is a commoner and isn't as restrained by, grew up a commoner, isn't as restrained by all of the nobles' processes. He might be one of the better people to send.
He's not a warrior,
the key would be gaining Shaggy Dog's trust, if you can do that.
Yes.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I think Davos is such a good person that Shaggy Dog will automatically respond to him and treat him kindly.
It'll take a long time. He's probably better off trying to get Osha's trust because if Rickon's attached himself to Osha, then think of her as his, and he'll hopefully trust whoever she trusts. So he should get her on side.
Oh, that could be really interesting because he'll have wildling sympathies because of Osha, and with and then with everything happening at the Wall, it could finally integrate all the wildlings into Northern culture.
It really could.
Can't wait until Rickon is king in the north and he makes Tormund Giantsbane his hand.
So, Robert Glover. I always struggle to figure out what this guy does after this chapter. I don't think he's the hooded man. And does he go with Davos, do you reckon? Or is he doing not,
because he has grievances with the Boltons.
Yeah, he's probably just hiding out, right?
I would say he remains at White Harbour, like to hold the fort.
Well, I mean, is he...
But it would make more sense for a Manderly to stay at White Harbour, though.
Well, there are other Manderlys there as well. I would just mean that,
to stay with them.
Robert Glover is an unknown factor, I believe. I'm not sure if people know he's alive, so you're not going to put that card out into the open.
Well, they do. Don't they talk about, I think in the previous Davos chapter, that he came trying to get some swords to.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the Freys are aware of him.
Right. I mean, he was a prisoner. Like,
yeah, he got released.
I think he was released on a prisoner exchange
after Duskendale.
Yeah.
So I mean, is he like a leader of men? Is he going to do a sort of, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, he'll eventually try to get back to Deepwood Mott, but
you think so?
That's on the other side, of the north, and with the snow, there's no way he could make it there at the moment.
So he'd be quite pro Stannis.
Oh yeah, I mean, he's very pro Stannis. Like, he says that in this chapter.
Yeah. Something I noticed with the Manderlys is that they only took 300 men to Winterfell, so a lot of their forces seem to be stationed at White Harbour. So I wouldn't be surprised if Robert Glover ended up bringing in, like, the cavalry to Winterfell at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a theory, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's also smart of them because they are taking quite a large force, but it's not everyone, so they still have reinforcements, and it does mean that their home seat is safe.
Well, it's old men they mostly bring, isn't it? It's not the best, even their best soldiers.
Yeah. So one other note on Robert, because I looked up some of this stuff. So his wife was a prisoner, like, at Deepwood Mott, and so she's currently, like, with Stannis, I think, or well, maybe she just hang back at the castle. But the other thing is that, like, he has 2 children that are still prisoners on the Iron Islands, because Asha brought them, like, back there when she went to the Queen's.
Oh, right.
And just kind of, like, left them at Harlaw. When she returned to Deepwood Mott. Just a random side note.
Is the wife there as well?
No, so the wife returned with Asha to Deepwood Mott.
Okay.
She's a lock, I believe. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, but either way, yeah, he's gonna join Stannis somehow. Just don't know if he's gonna actually.
He's going on He's going on like a Bruce Willis mission to get his kids back.
Yeah, there we go. That's right there. Liam Neeson going into Harlaw.
I love it.
Anything to get more screen time for Roderick the Reader is thumbs up.
Actually, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
His character.
And what about Wex?
Yeah.
What do you guys think about Wex then? Where's he off to?
He's probably going to go with Davos because Davos doesn't know what Rickon looks like.
I don't think so.
No, but
yeah
they
with the seas.
Yeah.
Right, but they also mentioned that, like, they're still trying to, like, get information out of him. And kind of teaching him to talk or to write and whatnot. So I think.
But it'd be. Sorry.
What? Oh, I think that Manderly's going to hold on to him just to, like, get the full truth about what happened when Winterfell was sacked.
I agree. And also, like, he's an important person to confirm what happened at Winterfell. Like, he's kind of the key witness. So I think Manderly needs to keep him alive and know where he is. So he's able to use that, and if Wex goes with Davos, he might just not come back.
But also, if he goes with the Manderlys to, oh Jesus, I'm blanking on the name. Okay, to Winterfell. If he goes to Winterfell, like, Ramsay will know what he looks like. A lot of the men there, or some of them at least, will know what he looks like, and that's not a smart decision.
No, but he might maybe he's just stayed at White Harbour.
White Harbour. That's probably the smartest one.
Yeah, Manderly's ride north kind of has the feelings of a suicide mission. Like, I don't think he expects to return from Winterfell and this wedding.
That's fair.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think he does.
And especially,
otherwise, I think he does expect to come back.
I don't know. I mean, he's got his son back. His heir is back. His line is.
That's right.
And he's taking old men with him. Like, old men who it's probably an opt-in mission, quite possibly, that opt in if you don't mind not coming back. Which is why it's only old men.
It's that northern attitude to winter, isn't it? You know, the old men go out to hunt and never come back.
Yeah.
But some do. You never know.
Some do,
but,
yes.
Yeah, it's...
So that derives from the Eskimo tradition. I was actually looking this up. Apparently the Eskimos, really old Eskimos do this in winter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe I've got this wrong. But I'm pretty sure, they say I'm going hunting in the winter if things get scarce.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard that as well, actually.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Another historical parallel, George. Well done.
He's he's got some historical basis to all of this, which is always nice.
Yeah.
And I think he does draw a lot from real world cultures. Well, not a lot, but like at least somewhat to inspire him with stuff.
So there's a line from Manderly in this chapter. I'm giving the phrase guest gifts tomorrow, and he says to Davos, "Do you know what that means?" And so in the north, when you give a guest gift, they're leaving and they're no longer under your protection. So, you know, anything can happen afterwards. So it's a very subtle hint about what might be happening.
I loved it so much. So much.
Yeah, and he
I was just like,
yeah, and he specific, like, that's why I brought the names up, because, like, he specifically names the 3 people that he's gonna kill. Like, out of, you know, all the phrases that are there.
I like that in your summary. He's got a new recipe to try.
Yes. Oh, so good.
You should have made your entire summary a bunch of bad cooking puns, like the proof is in the pudding. I've got another fish to fry. What else is there?
Damn, you're right.
Out of the frying pan into the fire. And, like, what? Like, the phrase calling Robb Stark a, like, beast and a, like, warg and skin changer, and saying he killed Wendell Manderly. Like, pot calling kettle black. Yeah. Or you can cut for one. That's a bit of a struggle. Actually, I have an actual point to make. Well, not really, it's more of a weird theory. That old instinct made Davos reach for his throat. His finger bones had been his luck, and somehow he felt he would need luck to do what Wyman Manderly was asking of him, but he doesn't have his finger bones. I actually think it is lucky that he doesn't have his finger bones, because I think it was like a trade-off with the Drowned Sea God, though. And hopefully, like, that luck will keep going on with this mission to Skagos and give him, like, favourable seas.
Yeah, things have gotten better for him since post-Blackwater.
Since all his sons died. You know, things can't get any worse.
That was a really big gift.
Yeah.
But he's also gone up in the world in that he's Hand of a King, one of many.
Admiral of the Narrow Sea.
Yeah, I mean, Davos is one of my favorite characters, and it's something I really kind of picked up in this chapter where, like, he's still loyal to his cause, and he fights for what he believes in, but he's also kind of like acknowledged that, he's kind of he's caused the death of his sons, and, even though he's risen the ranks, like, he's still kind of destroyed his family in some ways. And it was just a great, like, duality, and the letter that he wrote to his wife, and kind of his acknowledgement of that just shows the strength of his character.
It does, and also that I don't think he's ever really wanted power or position.
No.
And he doesn't seek it out, which is probably why Stannis trusts him so much, and why other people trust him.
Yeah, usually the best rulers are the ones who don't want it, right?
Yeah, that's the saying.
Yeah, they see it as like a duty, to do it right, as opposed to something to abuse.
Yes.
Do you think Davos and Stannis will ever meet up again?
Yeah, they've got to have at least one more meeting. Like, their relationship hasn't... There's things left unsaid.
They've got to hug it out.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, at least, I expect Stannis to die. I don't have much faith that Davos will survive the series.
Davos?
I love Davos, though.
Really? I was going to say, of all the characters, he's got the highest chances of surviving, in my opinion.
Yeah, because he'll just go out to the sea and sail off and be like, bye. See ya. Have fun with the others.
I don't know, I just feel like he's obviously gonna stick to the fight until the end. But I guess, if there was anyone who deserved a happy ending. But it's just because I feel like he's gonna be present, in most of the battles to come. There's a good chance he might not survive them all.
Mm-hmm. But I really hope that he gets to go home to his wife and children at home. Like, I really hope he gets that. Like, I personally see Brienne's probably going to die in battle. Like, that's what I think is going to happen to her. And quite possibly a lot of other characters. But with Davos, I hope he gets to go home. Like, I really do.
Find it so hard you just can't guess with George. Some characters could be in the most dangerous situation and they'll make it out.
Hot armor.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if Davos has thick enough armor.
I stand by my trade with the Sea Lord, the drowned god. Like, he'll make it out if he dives into the ocean. And turns into a fish.
He will summon the Kraken.
Well, he might.
I think we'll be seeing the Drowned God next book in the Winds of Winter, and he'll be like Cthulhu and in his great glory and stuff, and it'll be messed up. So yeah, be careful what you wish for.
Do you think Euron will turn into him?
Not turn into him. I just think he'll make an appearance, thanks to Euron.
Do you think he'll possess someone, or you'll just see his power influencing things?
I'll say, if anything, Euron would try to kill him and take his place.
Yeah.
That would be a Euron thing to do. Try and kill a god.
Well, that would be interesting if we do see some representation of just the fact that if the confirmation that drowned god is actually, a thing.
I'd like that, because we've gotten confirmation that a lot of other gods, at least sort of exist. So, at least for Lordos, but...
Stop trying to convert us.
Hey! Man, I'm barracking for the drowned god. No, that's next week. Or next episode. Tune in!
Yeah. Are you the one hosting it? Yeah.
Yes, I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
But...
Alright. Anything else specifically about Davos or the Manderlys or the Great Northern Conspiracy?
What do you think of Simon Flay? Since he was the spy master of House Flay and likely keeping tabs on all the dynamics within the family, do you think Wyman got any information out of him beforehand?
I think Manderly's been playing his game pretty good. Like, he's holding the cards close to his chest.
So this Simon Frey, he's I'm gonna look it up, but
Simon Silvertongue? Is that his name? Or am I thinking of someone else?
That's the singer that Tyrion murders.
Simon gets a play spy master. One of the three that were sent
or
to Manderly.
At least one of them does say,
Sorry, you go.
No, I didn't have much to say. I mean, like I said, he's one of the more intelligent ones, but there's still Blackwalder and Lame Lothar who do a lot of plotting as well. I just don't know what type. I don't really know what major reveals that that Wyman could have gotten out of Simon that he doesn't already know or suspect.
Yeah.
Because according to a wiki of Ice and Fire, he's a counter of coins and a spy master. But would Manderly know that he's a spy master?
Oh yeah, he knew, because he mentioned that Simon was buying, like, Simon was the one that was buying off his people, members of his house, to spy on him.
Oh, good. Okay,
Yeah, but
he might have gotten some extra torture.
Yeah, except that I don't know if the phrase are really. I mean, they're pretty transparent, right? I mean, Manderly knows everything he needs to know about them. That basically they murdered his son. It's like it's all he's interested in. So I don't know if there's many more secrets than that they can have.
Well, I was thinking the plots within the house. So if he wanted to strategically cause civil war, that would be very useful.
I guess, yeah. That's much more of a future problem, whereas he really needs to focus on the upcoming battle.
But I also feel like the Freys seem very open about, like, their struggles within their house, where it's not like the Lannisters, I think, who have all of their arguments, like, behind closed doors. I feel like the Freys are more open about it because they're less classy.
So everyone knows Blackwalder's coming for that throne, the head of the house.
And, like, if they want the Freys to be at each other's throats, just kill off Walder Frey.
Yeah, that'd be enough.
Like, that's all you need to do.
Yeah.
And then you're good. Like, you don't need to do anything else. And everyone knows that because there are so many children.
Yeah. Okay. Should we officially close out the episode and, should we officially say it's done?
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah?
Yep.
Yep,
right.
I'm done on this chapter.
Alright. Okay, so for those following along at home, the next episode of the Reread will be hosted by Sarah. I didn't actually need to ask the question because it's just written right there. And if I had read Venus' notes that I'm now reading, so it will cover the first ever Melisandre chapter in Dance and Brienne 6 in Fist and the Lost Lord / Jon Connington in Dance. So stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, iTunes, WordPress, and basically everything by searching for Vassals of Kingsgrave. And more importantly, if you want to get involved, search for a podcast of Ice and Fire and join the forums and talk to us. So does anyone have forthcoming episodes?
I think there's a Premier League podcast due to come out at some point soon.
Right.
So keep your eyes out for that. If you like slagging off Tottenham and bit of banter.
Okay.
Alright, sorry y'all, I gotta go.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna
mate.
go too.
Okay, guys.
I'm gonna go.
It was nice talking to you. Sorry I didn't have so much to say on the chapter.
Yeah, I just had to start the waterfall.
But it was lovely having you guys.
Yeah, it was fun. It was great having you all. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great fun. I haven't done one of these in a while.
Yeah, it was cool.
Been a minute.
Thank you for dragging us into this, Marie. I don't know
I know,
how the
right?
others felt about it, but I hadn't done a reread in ages.
I'm happy you both were able to join.
I'm so shit on the forums that I rely on the kindness of others to get me on these.
Yeah.
I'm always like a week too late whenever I go on and for the call to arms. And there's already 9 people on the podcast. I'm like, fuck.
I mean, to be fair, for the rereads, it's been a while since they've been full in 2 days. I mean, a lot of the times you have crews of 4 or 5 people, and you can easily add one.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think this one's the largest crew in a while.
In a while, yeah.
In a while.
Alright,
Yeah,
see you
well.
guys.
See you, Matt.
Yeah,
It was
bye.
nice having you. Bye, guys.
Bye. Good night.
Talk to
Oh,
you
well,
later.
good night to me. Have fun.
Good night, Sarah.
Good night, Sarah.
Bye. Bye.
It's a good habit to get into, burning the bodies if she's going to fight the others one day.
It is. Yes. By the time the others come to Essos, they'll just be burning all the corpses. Sorry.
I wonder if the others can catch the pale mare.
Could you imagine if they reanimate the corpses that have it, and then everyone's just run away from it, don't even let it come anywhere near you because you'll get it?
Double
You really
bad.
do need to work.
Advanced tactics over here.
Yeah,
I know there's a lot of speculation with our grayscale and how that might play some role in the long night, because Jon Connington's infected, and Shireen.
Isn't that kind of a different team? Because isn't that done by the Shrouded Lord rather than the others?
Yeah, but
Well, I
we
just
also
mean
need
it's
to get a
one of
strength
the
dragon.
diseases.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
go
would be on that chapter to discuss that, because I've never understood the whole grayscale thing, because my interpretation of it is that it only passes through touch. So that's a really easy type of disease to contain. And I've never.
Isn't Shireen born with it?
No, she contracted as a kid.
Yeah,
but
The idea
the
of it
way
being
it
transmitted
works is
by
it's
touch.
incubated. You cannot show symptoms, but you can still spread it.
Right, yeah, but so my point is it's at least from what I've read, my understanding is that it only spreads through physical contact with other people.
Yeah, but
That's the show thing.
if you don't know that someone is infected because they don't show symptoms,
and if they don't realize they're infected as well, and they go crazy partway through.
But then like Shireen, they can show symptoms but not infect people.
Yeah, I guess, but the one person we know that has it is Jon Connington, and he's being very careful about it, and so it's just I've never understood the whole patient zero thing of how he's gonna devastate Westeros with this plague that he's bringing.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite laid out like that. Defined.
It's probably other people don't know and they'll touch him and then spread it that way before they realize that he has it.
Okay, so
We also get it from the water. It's waterborne, because they mentioned when Tyrion, he didn't get touched by any of them, but he swallowed so much of the river that's why they're worried he's infected.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it does go beyond touch-based contact. That is from the show. I'll just say that.
well, on that, we're widely not talking about Dany anymore. So maybe let's get back to that.
Same as everyone says Australia's really deadly, but it's not. It's just we don't want people to come here. No.
It's a misconception.
Yes. It's not that dangerous so long as you're not an idiot.
And you always look at your toilet seat before you sit down in it.
No, generally stuff that comes... Unless it's a drop toilet. Okay, if it's a drop toilet, I'll give you that. But...
Still, that's a weird thing that you need to think about.
It's if you live in Townsville, you'll get frogs and, stuff in your toilet.
This is terrifying.
That's fine. It's more the stories about the spiders in the shoes.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah. Spiders are everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I could not do that.
I couldn't do it either, but I'm alive because I got everyone else to kill them.
Yeah.
Do you have to like put a lid over your shoe or something at night?
That's only if you're out camping. If you're inside, you should be fine. But if you're out camping, have your shoes inside your tent. Otherwise, you might get snakes in them or spiders. It's common sense.
I'm not going camping in Australia. All right.
So is anyone excited for a bit of blood and fire? You pre-ordered your copies and super.
I mean, I've been reading.
Yeah, I've been reading mine. I'm at the closest range so far.
Yeah, I'm not very far in, but just because I had to read the chapters for this. But
is it good? Worth it?
I would say it's actually pretty good. Like, it's of all the world building stuff, which you have your opinion of, this is probably the best. Probably because it's written exclusively by George. Yeah, and it even feels like he's addressing some of the, shortcomings in some of his earlier work. So, yeah, no, I'm enjoying it, but I like all world building stuff.
Yeah, that's one of those things, like, you probably know if you're gonna like it or not.
I kind of want to read it, but I just don't want to spend like 20, 25, euros to get it. And, I might buy it. It's like, I have everything else, so at some point I will probably buy it, but I don't feel really as excited as I thought I would. And I think we're all in the same boat here. It's like, it would have been exciting 3 years ago, but that was the world book, and now we're like, well.
Yeah. We're still waiting, and now we just get another world building book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To be fair, I wouldn't have bought it if I wasn't going to the con. Like, it's just because it's going to be a big topic, at next year's con. So I just up on my game.
To be fair, I think for me it's more, I enjoyed Sons of the Dragon. I enjoyed the Rogue Prince, the Princess and the Queen, and this covers a lot of that. So I feel like not much of that needs to be fleshed out for me.
Yeah. I didn't read all of these because I could only get them in big anthologies, and I was like, well, no. So I might actually just buy it, because this way I can have all the short stories that I haven't been reading this past years.
I highly recommend it. I listened to the Ian Glenn audiobook of Rogue Prince and Princess and the Queen. That was fucking badass.
So they're all in that, right? They're all in that.
And then I think, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but it ends at the end of the dance, right? The Fire and Blood. Or does it include the Regency of Aegon III?
It includes the Regency, I believe.
Okay, so that would be, I think me and Michael were talking about that. That would be pretty cool to read about.
Well, what does shenanigans happen then?
Fucking peaks, right?
The peaks are terrible.
Yeah. They're the worst. They're the whole reason the Manderlys fled up north too. They're awful.
What do you think? Yeah, they are actually. That's a good point. Who would you rather be, a Frey or a Peak?
Yeah, well, just not I would still say not a Frey. Anything but a Frey.
Yeah, anything.
Little weasels.
The part 2 will be great though, with all the stuff with Daeron's conquest of Dawn. That would be really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, you've convinced me. I might buy it just to have all of these short stories.
Marie, just tell people you want it for Christmas. You don't need to buy it.
Point,
just tell people.
Yeah, that's my plan.
Everyone will be asking, "What do you want for Christmas? What do you want for Christmas?"
Yeah, no, I had my parents get it for me for my birthday, so.
I think everyone here is that person in the family that they will buy, your family will buy you all Game of Thrones stuff. It's just it's an easy go-to present, and
Yeah, but that's precisely like my mom is actually rather my mom is actually rather good as at presents, and she never asks what we want, and she just thinks of.
That's a great skill.
Yeah, it is a great skill, and it's so hard to beat because like she is so good at this, but I'm not. So every time I want to buy something for her, I'm like, she's gonna be disappointed because she always finds the right thing. So, but she won't really ask for that. So she will find something perfect for me, but that won't be that. I'll see if I can be like, hey, I want the last George Martin book.
Tell your mum to tell everyone who's asking to get you what you want.
Not the last. You get my point. I'm a French person, okay? The last
I'm
means,
joking. Latest,
exactly.
No, but I meant last as in, please God no, it can't be the last one.
Yeah, I know. I know. Oh boy.
They've got posters for it all over the tube, so.
Really?
I think I can expect to get that for Christmas at some point.
Because you see, I don't think people in my family or will even know that it exists.
Agreed. Yeah. I don't think there's been heaps of advertising for it in Australia. Like, I don't think so. Like, I haven't seen it walking around places.
Yeah, I mean, really the only reason I know it's out is, well, you guys.
Yeah, I only know because I saw the post on the forums and I looked at it and, like, David was messaging about it being added and I'm like, what?
Huh.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.